Hello everybody and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a first-person horror game with a little bit of an exploration element called Dark Desert. It is by Peter Sundling from the 2012 IGF Pirate Cart compilation. What we're going to be doing in this game is trying to explore a very dark and mysterious, spooky kind of world, a desert in fact, which happens to be dark. I will be carrying a torch and looking for some keys in order to unlock our path back to consciousness. You see, our character seems to be a dad who found his way into some sort of a coma state, and essentially all that's stopping him from waking back up is he needs to find some keys and escape some evil skeletons and basically do some exploring. So that's what we're going to do, and hopefully we'll make it back alive. If we don't, that'll be real sad, and that is actually an option, as the game seems to have some sort of a timer to it. But we'll see how we do, and let's get right into things. There's not really any options here, so we just hit spacebar to start, and off we go. So in the distance, you can see there's actually a bell, happens to be chiming, and this is actually a very important thing to note because we're actually going to be noticing stereopositionally where that bell is going off. This is our key to finding our way back when we start to explore a little bit out of, the general proximity where we started. So note to self, punch down a tree for wood, get all 3 keys, open the door, wake up, do not get lost. That's very important. It's underlined. Wake up, Daddy. Alright, so there's going to also be some occasional bits and bobs showing up as text above us, and there's also a little map here worth noting. It's kind of scrawled down on a piece of note paper, so it's not necessarily easy to look at, but it is worth noting that it's here anyway. Can we find where are we actually? The bell tower. I don't even see the bell tower on this map necessarily. Is it at the top middle? It's probably at the top middle. Alright, so let's wander about a little bit. This is our door we're going to want to open, and we need those keys for that. So let's go see if we can find out. Again, short time fuse going on here, although I'm not sure it really gives us a way to find out if we are running out of time. When I died the first time I did this, I didn't actually realize there was going to be a timer, and I wasn't really hurrying. And granted, I guess I wasn't really hurrying in this case either. Oh, okay, I think I found a key already. That was actually remarkably easy. Alright, so the skeletons maybe a little bit underwhelming in terms of visual panache or something like that. They're a little bit reminiscent of something you might find from like a PS1 game, which in a way I actually find a little bit charming too. It sort of reminds me a little bit of like King's Field or something like that, and it's got this almost a cartoony graphical aesthetic to the game, which doesn't really make me take this any less seriously. It's just, I guess when the skeletons are up in your face, maybe it does a little bit then. Don't leave us. Okay, so we've got a giant rib cage. This is very much a horror-feeling thing to find. The sort of repetitive graphical texturing going on in these with the same little note happening on each one of these things, the same little divot or whatever that is. There's actually bump mapping on that, isn't there? It's a little bit bitmap looking, but it's still there nonetheless. That's one thing that I've always thought about whenever I do any kind of texturing on things, is I always want to make sure there's not like any repeated anything, like pattern-wise. I want to make sure there's some sort of visual distinction happening from one object to the next, or one scene to the next. And you seem to notice here there's some sort of crazy, like, volcanic hill here. We can actually just wander up that, because, well, I guess weird collision or something. Probably shouldn't, because I'm just going to get myself even more lost. There's actually nothing on the other side of that mountain except for death, or at least an endless chasm. Seems to be some sort of ruins here. You promised to never leave me. By the way, the person we hear speaking is very likely our daughter. To the best of my knowledge, seems to be what I'm able to take away from the scenario. It's actually quite a morbid and interesting scenario, although I think I've seen it a few times in various interactive media. You know, the concept of being knocked out and trying to, like, free yourself from the prison that you're trapped in, which is your own mind and all that, kind of makes you wonder, like, why the prison for this particular character, can you hear me, Daddy? Why does it manifest as... Oh... Okay, I guess I just died because of heart failure because the skeletons hit me too many times. I didn't actually know that that was a thing that could happen, but apparently it can, so I will reboot this because there's actually no restart button as far as I can tell. I'm hitting all the keys on my keyboard. None of them are bringing me back out. Anyway, I'll catch you after the break. Okay, and we're back. I didn't actually realize apparently hitting escape will just bring you back to the title screen. It's a pretty rational thing to do. I'm so used to in most games, hitting escape equals being quit out to the desktop. And since I'm playing this in a browser, that's not actually a factor at all, so I probably shouldn't have let it affect my opinion. Also, I haven't actually hit any of these trees down yet, which is kind of an irrelevant thing for me to do right now because I don't actually need another stick, but I just want to show you that that mechanic does indeed work. I'm not sure if you stockpile the sticks or anything, but it's good to note. Also, the fact that I got killed by getting hit by the skeletons, not necessarily a thing that happens all that often. I just got really particularly unlucky there. I took quite a bit of a beating on my first little run of this, while I was trying to get acclimated, and yeah, I'd never had died from that as far as I was able to tell, unless the time just ran out because I was being stagnant for too long. So some sort of creepy mummy hanging from a tree here. That sucks for the mummy, I guess. So let's see what happens if we knock down this tree. Oh, it actually falls down, and yep, physics in action. Yeah, that's pretty much how I'd expect that to go. Can I actually interact with this thing? No, it doesn't appear so. Alright, so let's wander about, maybe fight some more skeletons, see if we can find our way to another key. So far, that one that I've found, I guess some sort of a bronze key, seems to be the only one that I've run into so far in my travels. Skeletons are very angry. In a way, they almost remind me, too, a little bit of, like, the Minecraft skeletons. They're very, you know, kind of low poly. Please wake up. I would love to wake up. Just need to find some keys. Don't you know how this works? Haven't you ever been in a coma before? Man, that would really be depressing if this is actually how that works. Well, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I was sort of pondering on the idea of, like, why is it necessarily that this dude has skeletons on the brain? Why is this the way that he needs to escape from this personal hell that he finds himself in? I don't know, particularly morbid circumstances, I suppose, but if this is what's going on in your head, it certainly seems to be quite sad. I was also kind of hoping maybe for a little bit more diversity in the enemies or the geometry. Dad? Because as I walk around this, I seem to find myself in the same looking area a lot of the time. I mean, I guess it's a desert, right? A dark desert at that. And that's fine. I think for ambience sake, that makes a lot of sense. Are you still in there? But I don't know that there's necessarily enough things to see as we wander around that really give me a sense of where I am on the map. I guess you kind of want that to be a little bit claustrophobic and off-putting, but at the same time, there's a lot of skeletons and not a lot of places for me to figure out where I'm going. And that could be a little bit frustrating. Eventually, it would kind of come down to, I think maybe if you could memorize some of the few geographic pinpoint areas that you could sort of map to, and maybe if you do a bunch of runs experientially, you'll learn how to find your way across things better. Or if you happen to be in a dead-end type area, which I seem to be finding myself in an awful lot, that red circle is very bright. I kind of wish that was toned down a little bit, or the transparency maybe was tuned up on it a little bit. Can you hear me, Dad? These skeletons need to be spaced out a little bit more, too, maybe. Or maybe not aggro quite as quickly or follow you, because I've also tried the technique of just running away from them. I love you, Dad. Well, that's a nice thing to say. I've noticed, though, if you run away from them, they just seem to pile up, and you'll just kite them around forever until you actually fight them one-on-one, which is why I know that being hit by skeletons a bunch of times doesn't necessarily kill you, so I'm not really sure why it did that time. Alright, this is an area I haven't necessarily found myself in. Mom and I miss you. Alright, more skeletons. That's pretty predictable, I suppose. What's going on with their eye region, also? I can't quite tell, but it looks like there's some red lights glowing out of their eyes or something, but they're super tiny and beady. Alright, I'm up on top of these pillars. I don't know if I want to be up here. Oh, there was some text there. Sorry, I didn't see that. I jumped off too soon. Think I aggroed a skeleton. Yeah, there he is. I wonder if I can get him stuck on the geometry. That would be kind of funny. Get him to run in place for a little while or something like that. So I seem to be very, very lost. You know, the exact thing that they warned me not to do. I've certainly stepped directly into that line of fire. Mom went out to buy you a coffin. Wow, okay, that's really dark. I noticed that the text prompts seemed to get really dark all of a sudden. I think, if anything, this is not necessarily so much of a horror game because of the way that the content actually works. Like, these skeletons are not particularly creepy or scary to me, or spoopy, I suppose. And my heart failed again. But, you know, the theme, I think, is probably more horror-like than the actual execution, which is fine. I would like to see something like this, though, retrofitted into maybe a little bit more of an atmospheric environment with a little bit more detail put around. Not that the stuff that's there isn't okay, I think it does get the job done. I just happen to be of the ilk that really prefers just like a really beautiful environment, and I think in this case, the game would actually benefit a lot from that because more visual distinction means easier time, less frustration, and in general, just a higher quality experience. But at the same time, it was for a game compilation, so no hard feelings or anything. I think this was actually a pretty cool little game, and I'm glad I played it, but I think I won't belabor the point much more. I also don't want to necessarily give away the quick way to get to all the other keys, well, the 2 other keys, but I would love to know what happens at the end, so maybe I will go ahead and play this a little bit outside of this recording. But let me know if you enjoyed it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about this, what you might want to do to improve it or change the experience as you see it right now. What you think was done right as well is always a welcomed addition to the discussion. And if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like on it. That does help me out a lot. And of course, check out the game itself in the link in the description. Sometimes I forget to put that before the other stuff, but regardless, it's always there. If you're familiar with the series, this is like the 760-something episode, so there's always a link in the description. That's nothing new. Also, of course, my Twitter, my Facebook, and my Twitch page, as well as some other things like indie-impressions.com, the website where all of the episodes are aggregated. Feel free to stop on by and find some other indie games that you can browse and check out the videos while you're there. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to come back again tomorrow. New episodes go up every single day on Indie Impressions, so I hope to see you back for another one, and I hope you have a fantastic night. I will talk to you later.